What if a catastrophe struck, not just in one corner of the world, but across the globe at the same time? It's not a scene from a Hollywood blockbuster, but a chilling possibility outlined in a 2018 study. Researchers identified a cascade of natural disasters, from volcanic eruptions to earthquakes, capable of crippling our interconnected world. Imagine a world without electricity, communication, or the essentials we take for granted. This is the stark reality of a grid-down scenario, a situation where SHTF. This isn't about fear-mongering, but about facing a potential threat head-on. We've built a society reliant on fragile systems, vulnerable to disruption. Supply chains stretch across continents, communication networks span the globe, and our very survival hinges on the steady flow of electricity. But what happens when that flow stops? What happens when the grid goes down? The immediate aftermath might bring a deceptive calm, a brief pause before the reality sets in, but soon the consequences would ripple through every aspect of our lives. Supermarket shelves stocked by just-in-time delivery systems would empty within days, gas stations would run dry, and the comforting hum of refrigerators would fall silent. Panic would set in, not from the disaster itself, but from the realization that the systems we depend on have vanished. With each passing day, the situation would grow more dire. Clean water, readily available at the turn of a tap, would become a precious commodity as pumps fail and pipes run dry. Hospitals, reliant on electricity to power life-saving equipment, would become overwhelmed. And as law enforcement struggles to maintain order, the veneer of civilization would begin to crack. The modern world thrives on a delicate dance of interconnectedness. Goods flow across borders, resources are shared, and information travels at the speed of light. But this intricate web of interdependence also represents a critical vulnerability. When disaster strikes and the grid goes down, the systems we rely on for basic necessities crumble. Trucks carrying food and medicine stall on paralyzed highways. Supermarket shelves, once overflowing with abundance, are stripped bare within hours. The just-in-time delivery system, a marvel of efficiency in ordinary times, transforms into a recipe for chaos. The steady pulse of electricity, which is often taken for granted, underpins the infrastructure of modern life. We flip a switch and expect light. We turn a faucet and anticipate a flow of clean water. But when the grid collapses, these seemingly simple acts become luxuries of a bygone era. Water treatment plants, reliant on a constant supply of power, fall silent, leaving millions without access to safe drinking water. Sewage systems begin to back up, transforming once sanitary conditions into breeding grounds for disease. Hospitals, those bastions of healing, become islands of desperation. As the initial shock of the grid-down scenario gives way to a desperate scramble for survival, the thin veneer of civilization begins to crack. Law enforcement agencies, already stretched thin, find themselves overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the crisis. Emergency response times slow to a crawl, then cease altogether. The reassuring presence of police officers on patrol vanishes, replaced by an unnerving silence. With the mechanisms of law and order strained to the breaking point, those with ill intentions see an opportunity. In the immediate aftermath of a cataclysmic event, a strange calm often descends. The power flickers, then dies. Cell phones buzz with frantic messages, then fall silent. The familiar hum of civilization sputters and fades, replaced by an unsettling stillness. For those who haven't grasped the gravity of the situation, there's an almost surreal quality to these early hours. A sense of disbelief hangs in the air, a collective denial of the unthinkable. People gather on their porches, exchanging nervous glances and fragmented news reports. The initial shock has worn off, replaced by a chilling realization the grid is not coming back on. The reassuring hum of electricity, once an integral part of daily life, is now a distant memory. The delicate infrastructure that supports modern society, communication networks, transportation systems, supply chains, has crumbled. The world as we knew it has ceased to exist, replaced by a chaotic struggle for survival. Supermarkets, once overflowing with an abundance of available food, stand empty, their shelves stripped bare with no supply in sight. Gas stations, drained of their fuel, are nothing more than ghostly reminders of a bygone era. The just-in-time delivery system, a marvel of efficiency, in ordinary times has transformed into a recipe for disaster. Two weeks after the grid goes down, the situation has reached a critical tipping point. The initial chaos and panic have given way to a grim acceptance of the new reality. Those who clung to the hope of a swift return to normalcy have been forced to confront the harsh truth. The world they once knew is gone, and it's not coming back. The lack of clean water and sanitation has become a critical issue. Waterborne illnesses spread rapidly, claiming the lives of the young, the elderly, and the vulnerable. Hospitals, overwhelmed and undersupplied, have become little more than makeshift morgues. Doctors and nurses, working tirelessly without relief, are forced to make impossible choices, their skills stretched to the breaking point. As the 2-month mark passes since the grid went down, the initial shock and chaos have given way to a grim acceptance of the new reality. The world is a different place now, defined by scarcity, uncertainty, and the ever-present threat of violence. Those who have survived this long have done so through a combination of luck, preparedness, and sheer determination. The landscape is littered with the remnants of the old world. Abandoned cars, stripped of anything useful, rust on the side of deserted highways, houses, once sanctuaries of comfort and security, stand empty, their windows dark and lifeless. The air, once filled with the hum of traffic and the chatter of human voices, is now eerily quiet. Instead, it's punctuated only by the sound of the wind and the cries of scavenging birds. In a grid-down scenario, the steady flow of food from farms to supermarkets to our tables grinds to a halt. Empty store shelves become a stark reminder of our dependence on a fragile system. Those who haven't prepared face a stark reality: hunger. But you can prepare for these risks that face us now. Start by building a long-term food storage plan. Focus on shelf-stable foods that provide calories and essential nutrients. Rice, beans, lentils, oats, canned goods, fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, and powdered milk. Aim for at least a 3-month supply per person, ideally 6 months or more. Water, the essence of survival. Water is life, and in a disaster, it will be more valuable than gold. The human body can survive for weeks without food, but only a few days without water. Secure your water supply now. Store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day for 2 weeks. Invest in durable, BPA-free containers. Options include stackable jugs, large barrels, and water bladders. Store your water in a cool, dark place. Label and date each container. Have a way to filter and purify water from alternative sources. This could be rainwater, streams, or even your water heater. Invest in a reliable water filter. Boiling water for 1 minute kills most bacteria and viruses. Water purification tablets are another option. Access to clean water could mean the difference between life and death. Medical preparedness. Staying healthy. When help is scarce, in a grid-down situation, access to medical care will be limited or non-existent. Hospitals may be overwhelmed or inaccessible, pharmacies closed, and emergency services stretched thin. Your health will depend on your ability to handle medical emergencies yourself. Start with a well-stocked first aid kit. Include supplies for minor injuries, burns, cuts, sprains, and allergic reactions. Stock up on bandages, gauze pads, antiseptic wipes, and a CPR mask. Familiarize yourself with basic first aid and CPR techniques. Maintain a 30-day supply of essential medications. Talk to your doctor about extra refills. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Learn stress management techniques like deep breathing and meditation. Security. Protecting your own. In a world without law, when the grid goes down, so too does the rule of law. Police may be overwhelmed or unavailable. Protecting yourself and your loved ones becomes a personal responsibility. Learn basic self-defense techniques. Consider taking a class in martial arts or self-defense. If you choose to own a firearm, do it responsibly. Learn how to handle and store firearms safely. Security extends beyond personal protection. Secure your home and resources. Reinforce doors and windows, and install battery-powered security lighting. Be discreet about your preparations and supplies. Community strength in numbers. The rugged individualist, surviving alone against all odds, is a compelling Hollywood trope, but in a real-world grid-down scenario, community is key to survival. Humans are pretty much social creatures, wired for cooperation and interdependence. Trying to go it alone, especially in the face of long-term adversity, is a recipe for disaster. Start building your community now before you need it. Connect with like-minded individuals in your area. This could consist of neighbors, friends, family members, or members of a local church, community group, or preparedness group. Share your knowledge, skills, and resources. Remember, a strong community is built on a foundation of trust, reciprocity, and shared values. Identify the strengths and skills within your community. Who has medical training? Who's handy with repairs? Who has gardening experience? By pooling your resources and expertise, you create a more resilient and self-sufficient group, better equipped to handle the challenges of a long-term grid-down scenario. Establish clear communication channels and decision-making processes within your community. How will you communicate if the phones are down? Which people will be responsible for making decisions in an emergency? Having these systems in place beforehand can prevent confusion, conflict, and chaos when it matters most. Remember, in a grid-down scenario, your community becomes your lifeline. The harsh reality of survival. The world as we know it is fragile, dependent on interconnected systems that could fail at any moment. A grid-down scenario, though daunting, is a possibility we must confront. The first 2 months after a societal collapse would be brutal, marked by chaos, scarcity, and the struggle for basic needs. Those who have prepared will face challenges, but they will be better equipped to adapt and survive. This isn't about glorifying hardship or romanticizing a post-apocalyptic world. It's about acknowledging our vulnerabilities, taking responsibility for our own well-being, and preparing for the unexpected. It's about understanding that our comfortable lives rest on a foundation that could crumble, and that when it does, our survival will depend on our knowledge, skills, and resilience. The information shared in this video is not meant to scare you, but to empower you. Knowledge is power, and in a crisis, it can be the difference between life and death. By understanding the potential consequences of a grid-down scenario, by taking practical steps to prepare and build strong communities, we can face the future, no matter how uncertain, with courage and determination if we just plan ahead. Before we get to the last section, please do me a favor and like this video and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to turn on bell notification so you don't miss any survival videos. This is your call to action. This video is just the beginning of the conversation. Now it's your turn. What are your thoughts on the possibility of a grid-down scenario? What steps have you taken to prepare? If you need help with your food storage planning, why don't you visit us over at survivalcavefood.com? We have chef-inspired pre-made freeze-dried meals and a variety of long-term storage canned meats. You can find a discount code in the description below. Share your tips, insights, and questions in the comments below. Let's learn from each other, support each other, and build a community of preparedness. Remember, we're all in this together. The more we prepare, the stronger we become. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Start building your resilience today.